I'm starting to hear a lot, John, about that tight end in the draft, Kenyon Sadiq, for the
Oh yeah,
Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of yeah.
he's a big time player.
I
I do
watched him a
think.
bunch of college, but I wasn't sure how realistic him coming to Philly was, or at least being there at 23. But I do think there's a chance he could be there, and I think there's a chance the Eagles could take him, man.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to go up if you want him. I don't think he's going to make it to 23 because really it's supposed to be, from everything I've seen and talked with people about, it's supposed to be a pretty deep tight end draft, but there's really only one guy who belongs in the first round, and he's that guy. And generally, especially when you've seen the success of recent seasons of guys like, um, most notably Brock Bowers, but even last year with Loveland and Ty Warren, and you see the impact of the entire league going to, more of the Shanahan, McVay style offense where you need at least one pretty dynamic tight end. Yeah, I think it's become more important to people.
Yeah.
And when you only got one guy up in that level, somebody's going to leap before 23. And probably from a talent perspective, he should be above 23 anyway. So I think he's kind of a player that they would definitely want. They got to, in a lot of ways, they have to remake their entire tight end room, probably. Um, and that would get you off on a roaring start. So I do believe they'd be interested, but he's a guy I think you're going to have to go up and get. But there's a bunch of guys on day 2 and day 3. Eli Stowers from Vandy, Max Clare from Ohio State,
Yeah.
Jack Endries from Texas, Michael Trigg from Baylor, Justin Jolly from North Carolina State. So bunch of guys who um, could go day 2 or 3. And if they're not bringing Dallas Goedert back, they need to find somebody who can play right away and give you production right away. And that would certainly be Sadiq, but that's going to be a tough get, in my opinion, at 23.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see what ends up happening there. Maybe they have too many needs to go tight end, John, on day 1. What do you think of that? I mean, they always try. Obviously, you want to pick premier positions in round 1. They picked, corners recently. A lot of defensive line normally. A lot of offensive line. In their history. Do you think tight end is something they would go a first round pick with?
Well, I think it's. I mean, we talked about how many stories to talk about. How many stories were written over the years about Jerry Robinson being the last all-ball linebacker for the Eagles to take in the draft, and
Right.
then they took Jahad Campbell. And even then, we were all saying, well, the way how he talked is probably more of an edge.
Yeah.
Well, he turned out to be an all-ball linebacker. So, yeah, they haven't done it in a while, but they, Keith Jackson, I think, is the last one. Jeff's coming on, so he'll be able to confirm that or not. I believe Keith Jackson is the last first round pick they've used on a tight end, but Dallas Goedert obviously was a second rounder and pretty impactful. So I think Howie's good at just understanding the value, understanding you don't draft for need, especially in the first round. Now, that need, again, one of the 1,000,001 cliches in the NFL. Need is the worst talent evaluator in sports, which I agree with. But everybody drafts for need in a certain point. In other words, you have a group of guys, you cluster picks, and you're certain spots. You have a group of guys you want, but obviously, if you're have a all-pro quarterback, you're not taking a quarterback.
Yeah,
So
right.
even if the quarterback is the first on the list,
It's got to
you're
be
not taking
somewhat
him.
planted. Yeah, it can't be complete best
Yeah.
player.
So there's some context to it. But I do think when it comes to the first round, you got to be the type of player that belongs there, and I think Sadiq is. So I think